to share some of my favorite techniques about liquid watercolor with you as we paint a whimsical desert scene. When it comes to liquid watercolors, I swear by Ecoline. They come in separate jars, each with its own pipette. You'll want a mixing palette to keep the colors separate and so you can adjust their intensity with water as needed. Let's get started. First, I'll begin with a sketch and apply Frisket to mask off any areas I want to preserve as white. The masking fluid ensures that these areas stay white as I work, and it's especially useful to preserve highlights as liquid watercolors are dye-based, which means they tend to stain the paper and are more challenging to lift compared to traditional watercolors. With the Frisket dry, I'll start plugging in the background. I'm applying the liquid watercolor directly onto dry paper. The fluidity of the paint allows for covering large areas without leaving streaks or lines. It's one of the best qualities of liquid watercolor as they allow for effortless, smooth washes. The fluidity of the paint also allows for tilting of the surface to create gradations in color. The steeper the angle, the more dramatically the colors will move downward, making for intuitive and seamless transitions in color. Next, I'll start working on the cactus in the foreground. I begin by applying the first wash of color to establish the midtones and shadows. I'm mostly using the violet but adding a touch of black to create shades. Liquid watercolor is highly saturated but can be diluted or mixed to create muted tones. The reason for this highly saturated and brilliant color is because Ecoline is dye-based. It is important to know that due to the dye, these colors are not light-fast, meaning they can fade over time if exposed to light. So they are ideal for projects that can be scanned rather than for pieces that will be displayed long-term. Once the first wash is dry, I'll add a thin, darker glaze of color over the areas that need more definition, such as the darker shadows on the main cactus. Now, I'll remove the Frisket with the pickup tool. This reveals the white areas I masked off earlier. With the cactus and background established, I'll begin working on the flowers. I'll start by loosely plugging in the shadows on the petals, and then charging them with wet mixes of magenta and violet or black and violet. Combining more water into the fluid consistency of the paint allows for a very loose style that can be charged easily. I add a bit of extra warmth and establish form by creating golden hues in the middle of each flower. Liquid watercolors are perfect for creating vibrant colors, and I use this to my advantage to give the flowers that bold pop. Another major difference between liquid watercolors and traditional watercolors is opacity. Traditional watercolors are available in a variety of different opacities, while liquid watercolors are always transparent. This makes them ideal for techniques such as glazing. Here I'm creating a glaze of yellow to the main cactus, which will mix with the purple tones underneath, creating a deep, beautiful green hue. Make sure the layer underneath is completely dry before adding your next layer to take advantage of building depth without losing luminosity. At this point, I want to begin adding opaque layers for a more layered look. You can tint your liquid watercolors with acrylic, acrylic ink, gouache, or even an opaque watercolor. The gum Arabic binder in Ecoline makes them compatible with all of these mediums. While liquid watercolor are always transparent, you can mix them with an opaque medium to achieve more solid layers. I tend to add this mixture in areas that I want to create more depth, that need extra definition, or just a brighter highlight. Another unique feature of Ecoline is that they are also available with the exact same dye formulation in brush pen form. So whether you're on the go with the markers or in your studio exploring the liquid form, it's when you start layering them that the magic really happens. Liquid watercolors are made to layer. I love using the glazing technique to slowly build up depth and the more opaque layers to help build contrast against the bright layers below. It really creates scenes that seem to glow from within, perfect for sunsets, atmospheric scenes, or any painting where you want to infuse extra mood and vibrancy. For my last step, I'll go back into the foreground and refine the details. This final step is to ensure that the painting feels cohesive, with enough depth in the foreground to complement the background and flowers. I have one last tip for you before I say goodbye. If you have any leftover paint in its clean original state, you can actually use your pipette to put it back into the jar. I hope you enjoyed seeing these techniques in action and that you're feeling inspired to try them out in your own artwork. Liquid watercolors are such a unique and dynamic medium, and I think you'll really love experimenting with them. Thanks so much for watching, and happy painting!